This is how a multi-touch conversion looks like on the LinkedIn Ads platform. You want to make sure that you set up your attribution so that you're tracking as much data as possible for what's converting your prospects. I do this in a couple different ways. I set up 3 different conversion metrics. I want to know each ad that played a role in that conversion. So I'll set up a conversion metric with each campaign, last touch each campaign. And I also want to know the last ad that somebody engaged with before they converted. This is going to give me my true conversion number because that just means it's going to fire off one conversion for the very last ad they engaged with. Now, I also set up a 90-day conversion metric, and I also set that up with last touch attribution. So basically, I want to see if they convert outside of the typical 30-day click, 7-day view window. I want to know that if they interacted with the campaigns in the last 90 days. And that's important because most sales cycles are longer than just 30 days. And they could have seen an ad 2 weeks ago, decided to convert, and that wouldn't come up as a conversion if I didn't have a much larger conversion window set up. So in this example, I saw a conversion came in. I segmented by the date so that I can see this one very specific conversion. I know that it was one conversion because when it came in, all these conversions fired off at once. And then you can see there's only one last conversion. Now, if this worked correctly, my 90-day conversion, since it's also last touch attribution, should be on the same exact ad. So just by looking at it on an overhead view here, I can tell that the person probably saw an ad top of funnel, and that's how they got into the funnel. They then saw 2 ads that were middle, bottom of funnel in this group here, and then they converted on another ad that was top of funnel. Now, I have several things showing that this is accurate. One is the last ad that someone converts on should show the each last ad 90-day conversion all in that one ad, because it was for the each metric, it was one of the ads that played a role in it. So those all get a conversion to it. It was the last ad, so it should show a conversion on that. And the 90-day attribution is for the last ad they engaged with, so it should show a conversion for that. So let's see what they were. So first, let me come into my top of funnel campaigns, and I can see, so if this was where the last one was, and you can see, just like I was saying, it shows one for each, one for last, one for 90. So let's assume it's in here. One thing you can see is it's the same group I'm targeting. So I have 2 different segments. I'm targeting both of them with images and video separately. So you could tell here we have the Ops, IT, and Execs campaign with a thank you page each. So if I go into it, I can come over here and I can see, okay, this is probably the first ad that they engaged with, which means they would have most likely clicked on it because that's what would have entered them into the funnel. This was the ad that they started on. Now, let's come back to the campaigns and say, okay, my assumption is since this is the last ad they engaged with, let me come back here to my middle of funnel and bottom of funnel ads. And then in whatever order, I actually have some overlap of 30 days between the middle funnel and bottom funnel ads. They engaged with one from each of these campaigns. Let's assume it was in order and they went to middle of funnel. Now I can see that they engaged with this blog here. And after they engaged with this blog, or before, again, I'm not sure what order they clicked on these on. There is some overlap in the timing for these, but they also engaged with this testimonial here. So since the last conversion is back in top of funnel, I can only assume they got served another top of funnel ad, which was this video. And then with this video, it shows the each, the last, and the 90, showing it is the last ad that they engaged with, leading to the conversion. So why is this important? It's important because you want as much data as possible to know where you're getting your conversions from and what's leading to those conversions. We make assumptions based on what we want to show people at different layers of your strategy in order to influence them. And this helps both validate that and also lets you optimize campaigns based on what's performing well. Then aside from that, you want to see exactly what the fact that the conversion journey isn't always as linear as we think it is. I've heard people in the past who might exclude certain groups from if they've engaged with top of funnel, you then exclude them so they're no longer seeing top of funnel ads. I do not suggest doing that. This is not a linear journey. You've seen plenty of other people probably talk about how it looks more like this when you're talking about a sales funnel or a marketing funnel. And this is proof that that's how it can work. It started with the top funnel ad, they engaged with some middle and bottom of funnel content, and then they went back, saw another top of funnel ad, they got served another ad from it, but from the video campaign, and then they ended up converting. So buyers' journeys aren't linear, prospects' journeys aren't linear. You want to make sure to track as much as possible and understand the mindset and what's influencing your prospects so you can optimize accordingly.